U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken recently mentioned that Washington was ready to discuss the possibility of using U.S. weapons for attacking targets deep in Russian territory. And of course, he was having this discussion with Kyiv, or is ready to have that discussion with Ukraine. Soon afterwards, Russian ambassador to the U.S. said that Kyiv is taking provocative actions aimed at embroiling the United States and other NATO members into a head-on collision with Russia. He didn't blame the West for it, he didn't blame NATO for it, he blamed Ukraine for prolonging the war. So who is really prolonging the war? To discuss matters further, we are joined by Ambassador Volker Stanzel, German ambassador to China and Japan. He's joining us live from Berlin. So welcome to WION, pleasure speaking with you. Who's provoking the war to continue further? Is it the West, is it Ukraine, or is it Russia? Get us your thoughts.
Well, first of all, I'd say we are entering a new phase of war. The war has been taking place since a long time on two different planes. One is the real one inside Ukraine, following the Russian aggression, and the other one takes place on the plane of mutual persuasion efforts. The West trying to persuade Russia not to go too far, that the West would insist that Kyiv does not attack objects or targets inside Russia, so to show a kind of level-headedness. And the other effort was the Russian one, to persuade the West that Russia will win the war anyway, and that the support is in vain anyway. So now, where we have arrived now, the situation that you have described shows that, on the one hand, Putin feels that he's on the winning road. And that may have to do with the encouragement he received from Xi Jinping when he visited China. On the other hand, the West sees, the supporters of Ukraine see that their reluctance in supporting more attacks from Ukraine, even inside Russian territory, has not led to a willingness by Russia to show level-headedness as well. So it is quite natural that now Western supporters of Ukraine think about changing their strategy. And this is certainly a cause of alarm, but it has been provoked by Russia.
Ambassador Stanzel, now I've had this discussion with several analysts and political commentators from around the world. Some of them understand the Russian cause better than the West. Some of them understand the Western cause better than the Russian one. A lot of them have mostly said that Russia also does not want this war to turn into a nuclear one. In spite of all the nuclear saber rattling that Russia does on a regular basis, Russia doesn't want that war either. And now they are not mentioning that it's the West or it is NATO. They said that Ukraine is the one provoking. Do you feel they just want to now target Ukraine without bringing in the larger Western alliance in every conversation?
Even the statement that Ukraine is provoking the war is absurd in itself. I mean, who has started the war? Who's attacking? Who's making progress? And which side is weakening? Ukraine is getting weaker and weaker. It's in a very difficult situation. So to speak about Ukraine provoking, where is it provoking? You might say at one point that Western supporters of Ukraine are provoking Russia once they agree that Kyiv also may attack targets inside Russia. That will be the consequence of the situation where we're in now. But it is, I think, without sense in discussing whether this or that action by Ukraine is a provocation. If Ukraine is attacked every night, Ukrainian cities, Kyiv, Lviv, Kharkiv, are attacked practically every day. The infrastructure, the energy network of Ukraine is attacked. I mean, what else do you need if you need an example for provocation?
I just want to, remind, or I would, for our viewers, that the French president had not ruled out the possibility of Western troops in Ukraine. And then the foreign minister in the UK mentioned that they are willing to discuss with Ukraine, or rather they said, this is David Cameron who said that Ukraine has the right to target targets inside Russia. And now we're hearing that the US is ready to discuss deep strikes within Russia as well. How do you feel Russia is going to respond to it? Because the earlier two statements got Russia to start their nuclear drills right in front of Ukraine in their southern military district. How do you see Russia responding to this statement coming in from the US now?
Yeah, it is a new phase of war that we have entered,
Yes.
where mutual provocations increase in intensity. If you consider that Russia only yesterday announced that it is going to examine the maritime borders in the Baltic Sea in order to correct them, to adapt them to reality, which is, of course, a direct threat to NATO countries, Sweden, Finland, the Baltic countries. This is part of the whole game of mutual provocations, which increase in intensity. And the announcement, or the beginning already, of having nuclear arms near the Ukrainian border in maneuvers is another provocation. These provocations in themselves do not yet mean that we're going to enter a new phase in the real war where people are dying. That is not yet the case. But this level of effort to persuade each other mutually from both sides by increasing the intensity of threats, this has reached a new stage. And it is, I would really say, it is alarming.
Mutual provocations is what you're saying, but I guess in spite of all the provocations that are coming in, it's Ukraine and, of course, the border regions, perhaps in Russia, which are bearing the brunt. Civilians in these regions, which are bearing the worst brunt of the mutual provocations, which are coming in from both sides. Thank you so much for making time for us, sir. That was Ambassador Volker Stanzel, German ambassador to China and Japan from Berlin. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.